Hello, everybody. This is Jane Celia Hatch, Santa Fe, New Mexico. If you're new to my channel, I'm a writer, former journalist. I'm also a shamanic healer and a psychic, and I'm also a targeted individual and in recovery from MK Ultra, which are individually huge subjects. Today, I'm going to be covering a subject I've been, and I hope that everything is on, that I've been wanting to do a video about for a long time. And yesterday, I wrote a Substack article, and you can subscribe to that too under Jane Celia Hatch as well. And a small piece of it. No, let's see. It wasn't the Substack article. That's a very interesting piece too. It's about some of the beings involved in MK Ultra, and it's called "My Father, the Reptile." But so I was actually working on a book yesterday as well about Elizabeth Wallace, who is the bloodline daughter of Queen Elizabeth, and that's going to be an unbelievably shocking book. The contents within is going to be shock the world of what's really going on inside, because she has an insider's perspective. So I was writing that, and I mentioned ley lines on the earth, and I mentioned about several years ago when I had an ad in the paper to do land clearing and shamanic healing work. I had the manager of a natural food store call me and said he felt like there was something spiritually wrong with the area. There was a crime and homelessness, and none of the businesses were profiting, and there was a negative energy. So in Santa Fe, people are familiar with that terminology. So he called me, and I did the work. And what I had found was there was 3 Native American men still in a battle. They were dead, of course, and their horses were, but they were in this battle, and they were angry and fierce. And so I, spiritually, telepathically connected with them and told them that, they had died and they could go on, and their ancestors were waiting. And spirits can see your energy field, and they know whether to trust you or not right away. So they trusted me, and they left. It's joyful often to see them reconnected with God and their ancestors. And so anyway, that fierce energy and that battle energy and that anger and rage had affected the whole area where this food store was, natural food store, and also the ley lines underneath get contaminated. When something ritualistically or repeatedly goes on in the land above it, the ley lines or the water lines underneath the earth get affected and contaminated. So I also cleared using dowsing sticks the ley lines. So it reminded me of Maine, and a very scary situation. I've been in many, many, many scary situations in Maine. So I guess on a scale, I guess of actual death, this was high. This was 9, 10. Emotional, spiritual death was on a 10 for like 10 years, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. But this is a whole different ball game. This was actually a potential abduction in a place in Maine where many people believe there is an opening to deep underground military bases. So backtracking a bit, I was talking about ley lines because I believe there's a massive amount of contamination in Maine in the ley lines. And it began, I believe during the what they call the Indian Wars, the King William's War, all the wars. I think it was 300 years ago, where the royal families of Europe funded some of the Puritans And they made war with anyone who was peaceful up here. They made war with the Native Americans. They made war with the women. They made war with the Pilgrims. So, and in response, and then the French got involved. They sided with some of the Indians, and the, you know, other native tribes were with the English. It just divided and shattered the state. And it was all coming from the royals. Nothing would have happened if the royals had not funded the Puritans. So, you know, curses, the Native Americans sent out curses because, of course, they were overwhelmed and understaffed and did not have the resources of the, there's the dog that barks all the time. So the land, you know, the people were cursed, the land was cursed, and not to mention the bloodbath that went on for a couple of 100 years, on and on and on, you know, with people taking sides, and basically everybody got involved somehow, and families were destroyed and tribes were destroyed. And it was all coming from the royal family of Europe, because without their funding, there would not have been this division, and then there wouldn't have been this obsessive, compulsive, greedy land grab by the Puritans. It wasn't all white people. It was the white people. It was the Puritans being funded. There were Pilgrims who were against this. There was Quakers who were against this. There was women against this. You know, but they and the natives, of course, they were just demolishing them because they wanted their land. But it wasn't all white people. Like, we make a really big mistake when we're always saying it's just the white people. You know, so anyway, the land was cursed, and it was a bloodbath for, I believe, centuries, 2 centuries. I'm not sure when King William's War ended in the so-called Indian Wars and the French Indian Wars, but it was all happening in Maine. So the land is cursed. So as above, so below. So if you have this cursed energy, I don't know if the witch trials went on there. They certainly were going on in Salem, and there was very, very weird Puritan leaders, male Puritan leaders, who suddenly decided that the Candlemas Massacre in York, Maine, was a result of a little girl, she was probably 12, having twitching or something. They decided that because she had done that, the Native Americans and the French had wiped out York Village. Somehow, you know, it had to go back to a young female that did a twitching or something. So yeah, it was like a week before the Candlemas Massacre, which was a horrible, it was a dawn raid by a native tribe, I think with the French, and they wiped out the whole village with knives and tomahawks. I don't know how many people, as women, children, men, animals, they just massacred everything with tomahawks. But instead of them saying, well, yes, it was the French and the natives, it was the women, the little girl, the 12-year-old girl that had twitched or something. And one of the Lord Masters of the town suddenly decided, oh, that's why that happened. They're witches. So all the way to Salem, you know, to northern Maine, there was this horrible energy of wanting, you know, it was women hating, native hating, you know, anyone that was peaceful or innocent, the Puritans went after. It's my personal opinion that it was the Puritans that were Satanists, that if you know the way they killed the women and tortured the women that died, you'll know that they were the Satanists and the women were just women. They weren't witches, they were just women. And I believe wholeheartedly that it was the Puritans that were Satanists, and because they killed and tortured in a very satanic fashion. So the whole history is upside down and inside out, of course. So anyway, getting back to the main topic of this video, I'm just setting the stage to say that Maine has some curse energy and blood energy, and wherever blood was spilled is a potential for an opening to the dark side. And there was blood spilled all over Maine. Everybody suffered. everyone was killed, except for probably a few Puritans who had a lot of money and a lot of resources. And but it shattered the land here. It shattered the people and it contaminated the land. So the land's contaminated. So what's going to be uprise from that, where all these portals, because where blood is shed, there can be an opening to the dark side or the evil. So as above, so below. So we have contaminated land and portals. So what's going to move in there, generally speaking, is going to be something that duplicates that, what's in the ley lines or what's on the earth. And without any clearing or healing, I'm not saying if you're a regular person, you're going to be affected by this, because probably you're not. You're going to be living outside of that, and they have no, if evil has no use for you, if you're not a whistleblower, or you're not a light being, or you're not someone who is trying to bring awareness and truth and love and healing to the planet, you're probably going to go around unscathed, because evil, well, generally if it's spiritual evil, they can see your aura and they can see your intentions, and they can see, in any kind of light, truth, love, they hate because it exposes them. So it is generally like people, targeted individuals, light bearers, good shamans, healers, people who have been MK Ultra'd especially are going to, it was a horrifying, terrifying place for me when I was a young woman with young children, and I wrote a whole book about it. And this is it, and I'll leave my email below if you want. I'm having a 20% off sale, so it would make it around $20 if you're interested. It's about what's Maine and the court system and my life and my daughter's 2 lives up there. So the land of broken crystals, you can also get it on Amazon. But so it's not a good place for people like me at all, or generally anyone, just like it was 300 years ago. If you're a light worker or you want peace, you truly, not pretend, like there's a lot of pretend things going on, environmentalism and feminism, but like real heartfelt, like caring about women and families and really truly caring. It's a dangerous place for you. It still is, because I don't think there's any clearing. If you're just going about your business, living your life, and you're just, you're not concerned about changing the world, or I'm not saying that to be judgmental. It's just everybody has a different path, and that might not be your path in this lifetime to be aware of what's going on. But if you are, just saying, it's a dangerous place, and it still is a dangerous place. So I am not there at the moment, but I did go there. It was about 7 or 8 years ago. So this is the story as it. So how do I describe? So there's curses involved in the story. There's demonic energies, and there's MK Ultra and remote neural monitoring. So I was in North Carolina at the time, and I had a daughter who needed to move from New York City to Maine. And my perpetrators, my gang stalkers, which is because I am targeted and I am MK Ultra, they monitor you for your whole life because you've been in experiments, illegal experiments they don't want anyone to know about. So they're going to monitor you to make sure you're not remembering, and they'll try to re-traumatize you. Occasionally if you're really getting close to the truth, they'll try to assassinate you, but it's basically to traumatize you forever, for your whole life. So you're constantly trying to find safety and find peace, and they're constantly trying to disable you, and they're using all kinds of things to do that. They're using satanic curses, they're using mind control, they're using remote neural monitoring. So anyway, I was in North Carolina. I and they know how my vulnerabilities, which is my children. I always want to help my children. So there was something, again, another point of this video is always trust your gut instinct, no matter what your head is doing, because you don't know how many demons are working on your thoughts, or who is sending, information into your head. But my gut was burning, but there was still something I have, like, plus my daughters and I went through such hell in Maine. I was always kind of trying to make up for it in ways, and I didn't have a lot of money, so I was trying to always help them if I could, until I felt like I needed to drive from North Carolina to New York and then bring her to Maine. And from beginning, it was chaotic. And I should have known. Whenever something is so chaotic, it's hard to make it happen, or just the gut instinct. But I kind of went against that. And I have a thing of being self-effacing. And I'm like, well, you should overcome this. You just need to fight through it. And so I drove from North Carolina to New York. It was kind of a crazy scene there, but I did get her. And I did bring her to Maine. Now, for me to go to Maine, I think it was maybe one of the first times I'd ever been back, because I couldn't bring myself to cross the border into that state. I felt like I barely escaped with my life. So I dropped her in Jefferson. I didn't realize then, but there had been a new curse. Like now I know what a new curse feels like. It's very fresh, in the sense everything tightens up. Everywhere you go, doors slam. Everything is a near accident. The most basic things are hard to get. Food, the store just closes. They're all out. I don't know how to explain it. It's like the walls just come down. So you get lost. Whatever you're trying to do, it's like somebody is right above you making everything go wrong. It's a new curse. Unfortunately, it's probably a new sacrifice. For them to get Satan involved, they need to sacrifice. So there's probably to keep targeted individuals traumatized. Unfortunately, Satanists are sacrificing. So it's a blood sacrifice to keep MK Ultra and targeted individuals often to keep them traumatized and in line. Plus, they have billions of dollars, the CIA and all of those, to continually work this apparatus. And it's a spiritual war, but it's also a military war against, the sort of the front line of defense for humanity. The people that are awake and aware and is fighting for our freedom and fighting for our rights. They have billions of dollars to fight us. But so I'm alone. I really don't have any place to stay. I have been somewhat unwelcome. It's just getting at my ex's house or his girl. It's just like everything. I was separate from, like, I was in a box moving around and no one could get in and I couldn't get out. And I'm still thinking, what's wrong with me? I should be able to go back to Maine. And the thing, it's always me, is a mind control. It's a trauma-based mind control aspect of what I experienced as a child, and this built into my brain that I should never trust myself. I'm always wrong. I'm always acquiesce. So even though I have these shamanic skills and all this power in my center, my first chakra, which is an earth power, connected to the trees, the plant, they're constantly reinforcing the mind control. So, most of my life I was just battling the two, the center, my center, and then the mind control. And so the only place it seemed that I had to go was the original plan, which was like another 3 hours north, deeper and deeper into Maine. So I didn't know it. I'm going I had a reservation at this house. It was owned by a family member. And it seemed like I had no alternative. That's what it seems like when they want you to go somewhere, all other options are eliminated. Either in your head they convince you, or they really are, because they can work on the physical too. They use what they call gang stalkers. Those are like low life CIA assets that do the grunge work of, running you off the road, or doing street theater, or whatever they have to do to align with the goals of whatever the CIA or your handler has in mind for you, for a project or a takedown or something. So I truly believe, Princess Diana was under a curse that night, because she only had one way to, they were, everything was bringing her to that moment in the car. And they couldn't have done it with just strategical military CIA operatives set here, set there. It's like it had to be like a satanic curse moving her, like feeling like she never had a moment where she could say, no, stop, this doesn't feel right. It was like me that night. I was just, okay, I got to keep going. And I had a horrible feeling. I just had a horrible feeling. But I kept going. It was dark. I was alone. I don't even know if I had a cell phone. I had a very hard, I finally got off the highway. It was much further north than I thought. I went into this small little town. I don't think yeah, I'll say the town. It was Medford, Maine. Okay. So it's sort of, that's my phone, central, mid Maine, pretty far up there. I mean, I think I went past, I think it was approaching Bangor, around Bangor. Okay. So, I finally find the place and I walk in, and it's a little cabin. I'm feeling very, very strange. And I guess I will start to share a little bit, because maybe people are getting sick of seeing my face. So let's see if I can begin to share. Okay, let's see. There's that. All right, so here I have I hope I have the map of Medford. Yeah, so here is Medford, Maine. You can see where it is. It's a couple hours. There's Portland. So I had come all the way from North Carolina and I was going up here. Yes, I had passed Bangor. So I was right about there, deep in the woods. I think right along it was along a river. So it could have been right there. Actually, that looks like a river. Yeah, so right there. So yeah, I'm feeling very, very uncomfortable, very strange. Like my shaman center is turning, nodding up, but I'm like, and I walk into this cottage and it's perfect, pristine. It's just really, really cute little house. But I'm like, my palms are starting to sweat for no reason at all. My heart is racing. It's getting towards twilight, and I'm like, well, it's kind of it's too late to leave. I didn't have a lot of money. Here's the river. I was actually on this river in Medford, Maine. So there was a thick tree line, and then there was this raging river. Maine has very deep, dark, raging rivers. Just creeps me out thinking of it. And so there was a cabin probably about here. It was a short dirt road. And so I want to relax. I want to feel like I have made this trip and now I can relax. But I absolutely could not relax. There was something going on. It was, I don't know how to explain it. But you'll you'll understand. So there's the Candlemas murder that night, you know, that the the Salem leaders, town leaders, in their great wisdom, blamed on, I think, a little girl who was twitching. Yeah, so that's that. But let's see. So Medford. So I'm there. I'm in this cottage. I'm pacing. I'm like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get it. Most beautiful little cottage you could imagine, pristine. I tried to sit in the bed. I got up. Um, I was pacing. I went for a very short walk, but everything in me told me to go back to the house. I went back in. I did not unpack. I was just pacing. Like I, I, I was surrounded by danger, but I couldn't see it. I didn't know what it was. But suddenly I knew a curse had brought me there. And it was getting so dark. There was really no way out because I didn't know where I was. I was alone. I was in an old car. Like, what exactly do you do to get out, and where do you go if you've never been here? So it was I stood out on the porch for a second. It was deathly still in the woods. My gut was burning. Everything in me said, go back in the house, lock the door, don't go out. I did. I locked the door. I made sure all the windows were shut. I just lied on the bed. I didn't unpack. I kind of had my keys in my hand. I sort of laid in the bed, on and off, the kind of sleep where you're in a sense of terror, and then it's like nightmare to waking terror. So I absolutely felt like I was surrounded by evil, and I couldn't see it, I couldn't hear it, but I could feel it. And it was deathly still. Okay, so I got up the next day. I left a note. I said, I'm leaving. And I got out in my car. My car started and I left and I got away. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you what I think it was. All right, so here is a woman on that same street, almost the same time, same year. It may be, I think I might have been in there in October. Okay, she was walking on the same road right by the cottage where I stayed, and she disappeared. I feel like, to be honest, I feel like they took her instead. Medford resident Diana Etsy disappeared from her house on November 2nd, 2016. Neighbors noticed the lights had been left on overnight, and the front door was unlocked. Inside, they found the TV on, her purse on the table, and her car is in clear sight. Her car was in the driveway, yet the 71-year-old woman was nowhere to be found. 2 years have passed since Diana, so this was written in 2018, was last seen on October 31st, so it was also a ritual date. It's it's Halloween, which is a big satanic sacrifice night. And her disappearance has left the tiny Piscataqua County community of 245 people unsettled. They have participated in multiple searches conducted by the Maine Warden Service. Her case remains open, missing case. Maine State Police are planning an announcement. It's been 2 years since she went missing, and our goal is to find her, her brother said. That's her brother. There have been extensive searches for her with dogs and horses and people driving through the woods. They also had divers in the pond and the river. Diana and her brother grew up in Medford, and Diana returned to the small town after retiring from her career as a university registrar in North Carolina. That's interesting. At the time of her disappearance, she still owned a house in North Carolina. A 71-year-old woman doesn't just disappear with no money, Black said. From an outsider's perspective, it doesn't make any sense and it's unsettling. Diana showed no signs of dementia, her brother said, and she had tested negative for Alzheimer. The feeling is she didn't just wander off. There's been some foul play. Yes, well, I will definitely say that there has been foul play. So I want to show you, so these videos, Palmyra is a town, I'll show you, it's very near Medford. It's probably 10 to 20 miles from it. And there's been all these sightings there that, you know, I don't know what these videos have. They're probably just making like it's not real, but these were I read or I listened to the story. And that is exactly what the people said they saw was these right there, these half human, half werewolves that had come out of the woods. They came out of the woods and they were surrounded this house and actually couldn't. Let me see if I can just find a picture of them.
Through this supernatural paranormal.
So they were half human, half wolf that came out of the woods, came up to their windows, and they couldn't get in. For some reason, these beings could not open doors or windows, which is what I realized saved me. So if you are familiar with what is going on in deep underground military bases in the United States, which I am not from personal experience, but I've listened to potentially dozens of testimonies from survivors who are MK Ultra, who were abducted as children and were brought by the American military and brought into deep underground bases where they saw these hybrid breeding programs. So they are, you know, and they also saw aliens and grays and Dracos. There's a whole world going on beneath us, most of it organized by the military for purposes of, it's always about war and money. So they're either breeding for a breed they can use as an army, or that can be sold to other people for organ parts or for slaves. There's a big slave trade. So they'll do anything. They have no, they're cloning, they're creating these creatures, they're creating all kinds of creatures. And so these creatures, I think there were 6 or 7 of them, and you can see these videos. I'm not going to play them because they're sensationalized, I think, and I'm telling you the real story. This one is called The True Terrifying Story of Palmyra, Maine, which is right next to, well, maybe 5 to 10 miles from Medford, where I was. So these people survived because for some reason, these creatures didn't know how to open doors or windows, which makes sense. They can be killing machines, but they can't do something very simple because sometimes they're new breeds, the technology is not completely advanced. So here is what showed up in the woods in Palmyra, Maine, not far from Medford, Maine, where I was that night. Palmyra is probably about, I think I have, okay, so Palmyra is here. I think Medford's about here. Maybe it is more than maybe 20 or 30 miles. So it's right in this area here where there is suspected to be an opening to the military's deep underground base in Maine. And I will show you, if I can figure this out, that map. Okay. Let's see if I can do that. So I think I can close these. This is the woman that disappeared. It could have been a week after I was there. Same street. I walked the same street. She probably went a little bit too late. And also they didn't get me. So it was also a ritual night. And I'm sure she's gone, sadly. So I will also say, before I close this, that the cottage where I stayed, the owner said became inundated with government officials after she disappeared, the FBI. The owner said they were questioned so vehemently and continually, and it was becoming so intrusive, the FBI wanting to know what they knew, if they knew anything, which they did not, that they just sold that house, that cottage. They sold it and they got out of there. So after, when this happened, FBI government inundated that cottage, that house, that street, everywhere. That my feeling is they wanted more to know what people knew more than they cared about her, is my guess. I'm guessing, knowing as I do the deep state, for lack of a better term. Okay, so I think I'll close that. And that is Palmyra, and Medford was there. It's the center of sort of central Maine, but inland. And I'm going to close these. And I'm hoping I'm still sharing because it's something I really need to show you now. Here it is. Okay, do you see that? This is one, I've seen many, many maps of the deep underground bases and caverns and tunnels. And I forget where this one came from. I should try to look it up. I hope you can see. I thought I could expand this, but you will see this is Maine, and look at what is right in the center of central Maine, and that is suspected entrance to deep underground military base, right smack in the middle of that area. So tunnel map of the US, the Great Lakes looks like a hub. Yeah, and look at that, right exactly where, and that's why I want people to pay attention to where that Medford and Palmyra was. So what they had was they had a leak potentially of either they sent out these beings to get, they're always looking for human DNA. They're always, they are involved in Satanism and a lot of the military. So they're either looking for a human sacrifice or they're looking for DNA. It could be just an escape. These hybrids don't necessarily have intelligence. They could have escaped. The night I'm absolutely 100% sure they were in the woods waiting for me. That was probably going to be a ritual sacrifice. So as above, so below. There's the ley lines. They've also built military bases. Brunswick Naval Air Station. There was where I was. There was also a nuclear power plant. There's Bath Iron Works that built ships that are armed with nuclear bombs. So there's some really, really, really bad juju in Maine. I know the base has shut down, but I have a feeling they've transformed. On appearance, it looks good. I guess it's called the Landing, but I would be very suspect of what they're doing unless that land has been cleared. So yeah, and I was brought, my whole experience in Maine was a mind control event that I was meant to be up there to be killed. So on many occasions, but here you have the deep underground, the entrance right smack where Palmyra Medford is, and that abduction took place, and also the appearance of the werewolves, which are definitely look like military experiments, and whether or not they got loose the people, you can watch those videos, it will tell you the story of the people in Palmyra, the family that it will share their experience. So it might be sensationalized, but it is an actual occurrence. So you can go back. So yeah, there you have it. I believe I was supposed to be the sacrifice. I believe I was taken with a curse, thinking I was helping my daughter, but my daughter was just a way to get me up there. And I would have died that night. I would have been abducted and died. I'm absolutely positive. And so maybe the finale is this, like, again, I'm always saying this, no matter what you think, trust your gut. I don't know how old most of my audience is, what audience I have. Let's see, stop share. Okay. All right, I think I'm back. So always trust your instinct, whether you're watching the news, whether you're going on a trip, whether you just met someone. I mean, I can't tell you the pain I would have avoided if I trusted my instinct with a couple of different men. It would have saved me decades of agony. Yeah. I love what Rachel Vaughn is doing. She's a survivor of child sex trafficking and satanic ritual in South Australia. Her father, she believes, was responsible for the abduction and death of the 3 Beaumont children of Australia. But she was sex trafficked through tunnels under South Australia. But she is now, she's also a psychic and a healer. And she started this group called Lay Love Down, about save the world, heal the ley lines, heal the world. So, this is about trying to heal the planet so that a lot of these evil does not rest as well. That they can't rest as well on a foundation of love and healing, and trust your instinct all the time. It could save your life. I must have had more protection around me. It wasn't just me, but I just knew to lock the doors and lock the windows and not move. And that saved me. Plus I probably had a lot of power animals and spiritual guides guarding me. It did, but I needed to feel that terror so that I would not go out that night. So Maine, the way life should be. It says on the license plate, but not for everybody. Again, I don't want to diss Maine completely. As I said, for a lot of people, they love it. They think it's the Switzerland of the United States and they don't want to leave. Part of it is because they're in kind of a cocoon. They think that there's there is like a covering around it because it's such a place of experimentation. And I hate to say this, there's a lot of evil, and it creates like a bubble, but not a good bubble. But you kind of stay in it even if you're not having a bad experience. What I'm trying to say. So anyway, I'm going to probably do a live video next Wednesday. I'll be traveling. I'm not sure what I'll be talking about. If you're interested in my book, I'm going to leave an email below where you can contact me if you're interested in a clearing on yourself. If you feel like you've picked up some negative energy or you just want to talk, please, I'll leave that email below and my PayPal. So thank you, everyone. I don't know how many people see this. My last YouTube video lasted 2 hours and they took it down, so I can't even upload this to YouTube. It'll be on BitChute and Rumble, and they've locked me out of Facebook. I had 3 accounts. They've locked me out of all of them. I'm locked out of YouTube. I don't know where this will be. I do have a Twitter account. I'll put that below. You could probably see it there. It's completely shadow banned. I don't think I've had a like in a year or a share. No one's seeing it, but maybe if you know it's there, you could find it. And so like Clarissa Estes Pinkham said in the 80s, women who run with the wolves have more power than any human baby because their mothers teach them to, you know, if you feel something in your gut, you gotta growl and show your fangs, and then or go in the other direction fast, no matter what your head says. Lots of love.